Hello and welcome back to the Yoga Bellies and Babies podcast. I'm Krish and I'm so glad you're here. And today we're talking about something that came up in my prenatal yoga class last week. One of my students said something that I hear quite often and I want to talk about it today. She said something along the lines like, well, I don't mind listening to negative birth stories. I don't only want to listen to positive ones. I feel like if I only listen to positive birth stories, I'm setting myself up for failure. At least if I listen to negative stories, I can know what can go wrong and I can prepare for all events. And I understand where this is coming from. I get the logic. You want to know what can go wrong so you can prepare for it. You want to know all the what ifs. If you only hear the good stuff, you might be blindsided if something difficult happens. But today I want to talk about something. But actually, that's not how your brain works. That's not how your body works. And that's definitely not how birth works. This episode is about why people say, only listen to positive birth stories during pregnancy. It's not to set you up for failure, but it's to set you up for the best possible birth experience. If this is something you can relate to, and you know any other pregnant women in your life who might be thinking along these lines, and you're preparing for birth and you're not sure where to start, I'm inviting you to join my free hypnobirthing masterclass coming up on February the 24th, where I'm actually going to teach you how to prepare your mind and your body for a calm, confident birth. The link is in the show notes. And now let's get talking about your brain, your body, and birth stories. So let me answer this question directly. Why do people say to only listen to positive birth stories? And more importantly, will listening to positive birth stories set me up for failure? Now, we say only listen to positive birth stories because that is how your brain and your body works. It's not about being naive or unrealistic. It's about understanding the science of your nervous system and using that to your advantage. And no, it's not going to set you up for failure. In fact, it's going to do the opposite. Listening to positive birth stories only sets you up for success. And listening to negative birth stories is what can actually set you up for a more difficult birth experience. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but we're going to unpack it. Let me explain this using science, hypnobirthing principles, and my own personal experience. So let's start with the idea of being prepared, and being prepared by listening to negative birth stories. Now, come along with me on this scenario. Imagine you're about to go on a long-haul flight, and you're a bit nervous about flying. Maybe you're quite nervous about flying, and you decide to prepare yourself by watching videos of plane crashes, reading articles about turbulent accidents and incidences, listening to people share their most traumatic flight experiences. Would that make you feel more prepared, or would it make you feel more anxious? It would make you feel more anxious. And here's what's important to know, that anxiety is not actually going to help you if something did go wrong in the flight. It would just make the entire experience more stressful. And this is exactly what happens when you listen to negative birth stories during pregnancy. You think you're preparing yourself, but what you're actually doing is programming your subconscious mind to expect danger. You're training your body to be afraid. And fear is the enemy of a smooth birth. Now let's talk about how your brain processes birth stories. When you hear a birth story, your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a story you're hearing and an experience you're having. When someone tells you about their traumatic birth, your brain processes it as if it's information about your upcoming birth. Your subconscious mind is like a sponge and it absorbs everything. And it doesn't have a filter that says, oh, this is someone else's story. This may not happen to me. Instead, it says, birth is dangerous. Birth is painful. Birth goes wrong. I need to be afraid. And this is where the science comes in. When your brain perceives danger, whether it's real or not, it activates your sympathetic nervous system. This is your fight or flight response. And your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Now, these hormones are super helpful if you're running away from a lion or an attacker. But during pregnancy, and especially during birth, they work against you. Because when you're in fight or flight mode, blood flow is redirected away from non-essential functions and towards your muscles, the big, powerful muscles, like in your legs, so that you can run, or in your arms, so you can fight. And guess what your body considers non-essential during a perceived emergency? Yeah, your uterus, your whole reproductive organs, your digestive system. So when you're afraid during labor, or when you're in that fight or flight mode, the blood flow is directed away from your womb, from your uterus. Your contractions, your rushes become less efficient. The cervix doesn't dilate as easily. Your body literally works against the process of birth, right? Because it's perceiving a dangerous situation, too dangerous to give birth. And this is why fear makes labor longer and more painful. It's not just your head imagining it, it's physiology. So let's talk about what happens when you listen to positive birth stories. When you hear a woman who felt calm during her labor, who trusted her body, who had a positive experience, your subconscious mind absorbs that too. It says and it thinks, oh, birth can be calm. It can be positive. My body can do this. I can trust this process. And when your brain believes that you're safe, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. And this is where birth happens best. In this state, your body releases oxytocin, which is the main labor hormone. It's the hormone responsible for labor. During labor, it's the main hormone during labor. And this is because oxytocins make your contractions more effective. It helps your cervix dilate. It has those waves that we talk about, the rushes that help bring baby down. And your body also releases endorphins when it's in this state. And endorphins are basically your body's own natural pain relief. This is stronger than morphine. Your body is designed to produce it has its own pain management system during birth, right? But this only kicks in when you feel safe. So when you listen to positive birth stories, you're not just hearing nice stories and nice tales. You're literally programming your brain and body for a better birth experience. And this is not about toxic positivity. This is not about pretending nothing can go wrong and you're going to have a positive, beautiful birth. This is understanding how your nervous system works and how you can use that knowledge to your advantage. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, what if something does go wrong? Won't I be unprepared? I want to be prepared. Now, listening to horror stories doesn't actually prepare you for complication. Yeah? So an example, if somebody tells you about their emergency cesarean section and you spend your pregnancy worrying about perhaps maybe having an emergency C-section, does that worry actually help you if you end up needing one? No. What helps in the situation, if you do need one, is 1, having a healthcare provider you trust that will guide you through it. 2, having a birth partner who can advocate for you and support you. And 3, having the mental tools to stay calm even when things change. And the important thing is that you can build those mental tools by practicing calm, not by practicing fear. So when you listen to positive birth stories, when you practice those hypnobirthing techniques, when you visualize your ideal birth, you're building neural pathways for a calm, for trust, for confidence. And those are the skills that will serve you no matter what happens during birth. So you can deal with all the what ifs, whether everything goes exactly to plan, which it hardly ever does, or whether things change and you do need medical intervention. The woman who has practiced staying calm, who has trained her nervous system to feel safe, who has built trust in her body, she can navigate whatever comes her way much better than that woman who has spent her pregnancy in a state of fear. And something else I want to talk about, which I think is quite important, it's the nocebo effect. Now, you've probably heard about the placebo effect. That's when something works just because you believe it works. Even if it's taking a sugar pill and you believe it's medicine, your body responds to it as if it is that medicine. The nocebo effect is the opposite. It's when something causes harm because you believe it will cause harm. And this is relevant during pregnancy and birth. So there are examples that show that women who expect birth to be extremely painful experience more pain than women who expect to cope well. Women who fear birth are more likely to experience the complications that they fear. And this is not because it's been manifested through bad thoughts. It's because the fear creates physiological changes in the body that make birth more difficult. When you listen to negative birth stories, you are feeding that nocebo effect. You're reprogramming your brain to expect pain, to expect complications, to expect trauma. And I don't want that for you. Nobody wants that for you. You don't want that for you. I don't want you to create a self-fulfilling prophecy of a difficult birth just because you thought you were being realistic. Now, I need to clarify something. I'm not saying you shouldn't be informed. I'm quite the opposite. I'm not saying that you shouldn't know about possible complications or interventions. That's important information, but there's a difference between clinical information and emotional storytelling. It's good and important to know what a cesarean birth is, how it's performed, what the recovery looks like, the benefits and the risks of going in that direction. That is factual information presented in a neutral way. What is not helpful is to hear someone's traumatic story about their emergency C-section with the fear and the panic and the pain and the suffering. Yeah, one source of information just gives you information, other gives you trauma. Here is where it's important to look at where you're taking in your birth information. Is it from evidence-based sources? Take a good antenatal class or a hypnobirthing course where you learn about the process of birth, all the possible paths, the interventions that might be offered and when they might be offered. And learn about it in a calm, factual, empowered way, not through fear-based storytelling. And I want to share my own personal experience here. Before my first birth, I read all the books. I read positive birth stories, but I didn't do something. I didn't practice it. I didn't practice being relaxed. I didn't practice visualizing that positive birth. And I realized this is a skill. This is not something you have to read about. So when I got to 42 weeks, I was fully in fight or flight mode. I was afraid of losing control. I had it all under control during pregnancy that I was afraid I was going to lose that control. So when I entered hospital for my induction, I took all that fear and tension with me. Long story short, the pain was tremendous. The pain during the induction, the pain during labor. My body was so tense. And when your body is that tense, you just can't dilate. And I didn't understand it at that time. I thought that pain was what an induction at birth was supposed to feel like. I was so exhausted because I couldn't rest. I couldn't relax in between the contractions. Eventually, I needed morphine to help me relax enough to actually get me to dilate. So after 2 hours of being drugged, which at the moment felt beautiful, but the after effects were quite heavy, it's only then that my body could relax enough to dilate. And my body could do what it needed to do, dilate enough to get me to 9-10 centimeters until they had to remove the drugs. And again, getting my baby out was extremely difficult, and I'm not going to do the details here. So for my second birth, I was like, I need to do something different. I, again, repeated. I read the same books because I knew it was not about the books, but this time I practiced. I practiced being relaxed, and I practiced actually the positive stuff. And that practice actually was very simple. It's not an active practice like going to the gym or doing something strenuous. It's something like listening to guided audios every day, reading the positive affirmations. The most active practice was actually a breath work, which was about 5 or 10 minutes a day. That's it. But I did it every day for months, and it became part of my routine, and my body learned what relaxation felt like. And the difference was extraordinary. And during my second labor, I was so relaxed that I actually fell asleep in between contractions. My body was producing endorphins, which are more powerful than the morphine I'd had during my first birth. But this time, my body was making it naturally because I felt safe. I had trained my nervous system to stay calm. And the difference wasn't the birth itself. The difference was me. It was my preparation, my practice, and how I felt as I was approaching birth. And that preparation was about reading more books or knowing more information or learning about every possible complication. It was about learning the skills, the positive influences and the relaxation, and training my body to feel safe so it could do what it's designed to do. So let's close by going back to that question. Why do people say, only listen to positive birth stories when you're pregnant? It's because your brain is powerful. Everything that goes into your brain matters. Every birth story you hear is programming your subconscious mind. Will this set you up for failure? No. Listening to birth stories sets you up for the best possible birth experience you could have. Listening to positive birth stories sets you up for the best possible birth experience because you're reprogramming your subconscious mind for calm, for confidence, for trust. You're training your nervous system to feel safe. And safety is where birth happens best. Negative stories create fear. Fear creates stress hormones. Stress hormones can make birth harder. Positive stories create confidence. Confidence creates calm. Calm creates the optimal environment for birth. So you're not being naive by only listening and reading positive birth stories. You're being strategic. You're using the science of how your brain and your body work together to give yourself that best possible chance at having that best possible birth experience. And if something does change during your birth, if you do need an intervention, you'll be able to handle it so much better from a place of calm instead of from a place of fear. So please protect your mind, protect your bubble. Tell people you don't want to hear their birth stories unless it's positive. Walk away if you need to. Unfollow accounts that share traumatic birth content. Your mental preparation is just as important as your physical preparation. Actually, it's more important. And if you want to learn how to actually prepare your mind for birth, I'm inviting you to join my upcoming free hypnobirthing masterclass on the 24th of February. I'm going to teach you practical techniques that build calm, that build confidence and trust. The link is in the show notes, and I would love to see you there. Thank you so much for listening today. If this resonated with you, please share it with a pregnant friend who needs to hear this. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it.